Okay, good morning, guys. Every single one of you amazing human beings, wherever in the world you are joining us, please let us know in the chat and in the comments. Just drop where in the world you're joining us. This is Pounds for Breakfast. It is NFP Friday. Not is it only my favorite day of the week, but it's my favorite day of the month as a whole, right? So we're in for a cracker of a day. We're going to be spending a lot of time speaking about NFP, preparing for NFP. Now, remember, there are 3 shows in total today. We have Pounds for Breakfast, which you're watching me live on right now. We then have an advanced setup at 1 o'clock today, right? So that 1 o'clock advanced setup, that is going to be for $250 plus account holders, right? So this setup session is going to be at 1 o'clock. So if you have $250 or more in your MT4 account, your Globex 360 account, then we will be sending through those links to you. You can take a screenshot of your account. You can send me your MT4 number and I will go ahead and check that out. If your account balance is more than $250, I will give you the link to the session. Now, this session is designed to go deep into pending orders, set up what could happen, what is likely to happen, and we're going to set up all of those perimeters of what we could end up seeing. And then at 2 o'clock, which is the third show for the day, we're going to be starting at 2 for the NFP release that's going to be happening at 2:30 today. So quite a bit of information that's going to be happening. But again, that advanced setup is for those of you who have the bigger accounts that obviously want to put risk management in place, you want to put some pending orders in place, and I'll explain to you my exact forecast of what I think is going to end up happening. Now, again, our job is not to predict the market, but only to prepare for it. So that 1 o'clock session, we're going to be spending about 30 to 40 minutes together, prepping you to get you in that position. So if you want to be a part of that, make sure your Globex 360 live account has a minimum of $250. Down in the link in the description is my Telegram, my direct link in Telegram, right? So the very first link in the description of this video down below, you can hit me up with a screenshot. I want to just see your MT4 number and your account balance. I'll go and verify that, and the team will send you a link on Telegram for this session at 1 o'clock. Now, if you don't have that, then obviously I will see everybody live at 2 o'clock. NFP is going to be massive. It's going to be big, right? If you're not excited and you're not pumped, it's time to get excited and get pumped, because it is going to be absolutely massive. And I just can't wait, right? These sessions are usually huge. We've killed it this week with the Federal Reserve interest rate decision. I believe the total pip count there was well over 10,000 pips for that session alone, that evening session. We obviously also had some crazy trades in the middle of that day as well. So again, everything today is going to be NFP related, but we are going to start with the news. We're going to have a look at what's happening in the world, and then I will take you guys through a basic breakdown of NFP and what we could expect if you aren't joining us for that advanced session. Right, so let's go have a look at what the world is busy talking about. I'm going to start off, as always, with some local news, having a look at where the world is at this very moment and point in time. So let's start off with that local. So World Bank has essentially approved funding for 9 billion rand to repurpose Komati Power Station, right? So again, we've seen a lot of these big loans, these big things come in. We can just hope and pray that that 9 billion gets actually utilized to do some good. But in any event, the fact that the rest of the world is obviously looking and still investing positively into South Africa with its current credit rating in terms of, being that, junk state is obviously a optimistic look, and, glass half full approach is that, this is a good thing. Elon has planned to start some mass layoffs on Twitter today. So that is essentially circulating. There's obviously quite a bit of worry on Twitter's current share price and where it could end up going. So we are going to be tracking that from next week, because once the layoffs happen, once he's sort of shaken that tree and got rid of all the excess staff, or the dead weight, if you will, we will then start to see some bigger moves and plans being announced in terms of the future of Twitter. Now, we know that Twitter is essentially a platform that has advanced Elon's plans to the X Everything app, and this will allow payments, this will allow chatting to friends, it'll allow purchases, product, services, you name it. And I think he's trying to build, the next evolution of Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, so on and so forth. So going to be very, very interesting to see what ends up coming of that. But for the rest of the news, the whole world is looking at the jobs dates that we are going to be getting today. So NFP has quite a few different components, right? So we're going to break that down as we get into that fundamental data. But really first, before we get into the actual NFP data, we're going to quickly have a look at that S&P 500 heat map, and we can see across the board, most of these markets are currently bleeding in the red, right? Some big 4% losses, 3% for Amazon, Microsoft negative 2.66%. So from an indices and tech perspective, right? Markets have bled yesterday, and we saw that in our dollars for lunch session. We saw that breakdown in price and that continued sell based off of that Federal Reserve interest rate increase and the fears that these rates will not come to any sort of reduction or stalemate. So that's obviously what the world economy is obviously worried about, and NFP data today will continue to set that tone. Now, just to explain before I show you the numbers, right? The Federal Reserve has obviously come in with all these economic policies. The main one that everybody hears about and talks about are these interest rates. Interest rates are designed to, again, slow down inflation. We've covered this in quite a bit of detail in previous sessions. But one of the big factors in any economy is the labor markets, right? Powell continues to say that, listen, the labor market is a little bit too strong. There are too many, jobs for the amount of people that are looking for work. And so there needs to be some sort of balance there. He currently says the labor market is in an imbalance, right? It's very, very hard to put employees in their positions in the US. It's the exact opposite of SA. Here, we've got massive unemployment. There, they've got too many jobs to actually fit employees into those positions. So two things about that, right? NFP, when we talk about the NFP data release, we are going to get a couple metrics that we need to chew on and digest in real time, because they can sometimes be contrary and they can sometimes be they can have opposite numbers that kind of balance each other out. So that's what we're going to end up having to break down today. I will do a quick breakdown at 2 o'clock for everybody that's joining us in the public session, but we're obviously going to go into this a lot more detail with our advanced setup and analysis, because this will determine where we place orders for what events. So we're going to look at all outcomes. We're going to look at a positive report, negative report, positive employment, negative employment rates, as well as average hourly earnings, so on and so forth. So we're going to set up trades for all of those circumstances. But looking at what we're going to be looking at the most, it looks a bit messy because we also have dollar data as well as euro data on the day. And I'm just going to make this a bit bigger. So in essence, what we start to look out for, and this will all start coming out at 2:30. We also have euro and CAD data coming out at the same time. That can make it slightly complicated in some cases, but just focus on the dollar data. We have average hourly earnings, which is a medium impact estimation, and they're expecting a 0.3% growth there. Participation rates does not yet have a forecast for us, but we're looking at a bigger number than the previous results. We're looking at bigger than 62.3. These are all positive effects for the dollar. Remember this, right? Now, again, a positive dollar is not a positive indices or stock market. Again, we're looking for that weaker dollar, because if you have a look at where markets are at the moment, right? Indices are falling, stock markets are falling across the board because of the strength of the dollar, because of the fear that the Fed, when meeting in December, will come out again banging, right? Previous NFP was extremely positive, right? And that essentially is what caused Powell to be super aggressive about his position on Wednesday night. And so if we could see a weaker dollar, meaning if numbers could come in below expectation, we could then see a reversal across the board on commodities, on indices, on dollars as a whole, right? So that's obviously a best case scenario that would cause the biggest movements in the markets. And another thing to just note is that in most of these cases, the average hourly earnings, the unemployment rate, right, non-farm payrolls as well, are all expected to have a negative effect, right? So they're expecting only 200,000 new jobs to be created, as opposed to the 263,000 that we saw last month. They're expecting unemployment to go up, meaning 3.6% versus the previous 3.5%. And they're expecting average hourly earnings year on year to essentially come down, right? To only be that 4.7%. From a growth perspective, those are the items that are going to be most influential about the markets. And because they're estimated to come down, because we're seeing that unemployment should tick up, less people are to be employed, that's generally going to be in the trajectory that the Fed wants. What we're looking out for is two events today, or two outcomes, two potential outcomes. The first outcome is that unemployment gets higher than, let's see, that 3.6%. So if we see a 3.7 or 3.8, right, the dollar is going to really, really suffer on that one, meaning unemployment is massively high. Should we see the unemployment rate come in at the same 3.5 as last month or 3.4 lower, that's going to be extremely positive for the dollar. What we need in order to get markets back into balance is a negative dollar, is a weaker dollar. So the best case scenario here, or what I would like to see, not that I'd like to see any economy or country suffer from bad fundamentals, but in market balance as a whole, is a higher unemployment rate than that 3.6%, and seeing the non-farm payrolls come in at less than that 200,000 mark. So if we get 180,000 jobs or 170,000 or even 160,000 jobs, that will be bad for the dollar as a whole, and we could then see indices massive buy opportunities. But in the event these things come out positive, which they could, if we see unemployment come in at 3.5, 3.4, and we see more than 200,000 new jobs being created, that will be massively strong for the dollar. Now, again, because we're heading into an environment where the world is understanding that a stronger dollar doesn't necessarily mean a good thing overall, we could see a lot of volatility on this data, right? The most volatile move and straight move I predict that we could end up seeing is a weaker than expected numbers on the dollar. That would be a no-brainer, a rally on indices, a buy on indices. But if we should get a positive number on the dollar, I expect that we'll see a lot of volatility, but the world will balance that out and go and have, oh no, this essentially is putting a chainsaw and a sledgehammer into Powell's hands directly. So there are a lot of variables that we need to consider. And that 1 o'clock trading session is going to take all of these outcomes, and we're going to literally put the numbers down and say, in this event, this is what we're going to do. In this event, that is what we're going to do. In most of these cases, we're going to be setting up pending orders. So again, if you want to be a part of that special session at 1, get your account funded with more than $250. Send me a screenshot that your account is funded and your balance, your MT4. I will be then giving you a link to that 1 p.m. session today. It's going to be intense. It's going to be powerful, but it's an opportunity for you to ask questions. And this is going to be more in line with our Premium Plus packages, which gives a little bit more of an intimate, more in-depth type of experience, and not so much a public general feel in terms of our packages that we are going to be having moving forward. So those are going to be the big ones, and that's where a bunch of our focus is going to be today. NFP has the potential to rock the markets. I just want to make sure that everybody is understanding this. It is extremely high risk. We could see a ton of volatility. We can see whipsaws and swings well in excess of 1,000 pips on something like US 30. So we're going to be looking at multiple opportunities to either look at less volatile currencies as well as hedge on different instruments in different directions, right? So we're going to utilize a bunch of different assets for different risk profiles and appetites. The only thing I really want to implore you guys is that just please remember, this is not to be taken as financial advice or trade advice in any way, shape, or form. Please use risk management, specifically on a day like today, because a lot of people go into this thing super excited, place a buy when they see markets move, and they just get absolutely smashed, right? As soon as there's any sort of whipsaw or volatility in the market. So please exercise risk management. It is far better if you're trading NFP for the first time, or these high volatility situations are new to you. Rather just observe, place a small trade in the market, 1%, 2% of your account total value, and just observe, participate, observe, have some fun with it. But please don't jump into this market and let this be your first high volatility type event. We are obviously going to make sure from a risk perspective, at least from my setup, that I will be showing and setting up at 1 o'clock, that I'm obviously taking as much into account as possible. Obviously, I don't want to lose money in these live sessions or in any sessions. But please, you have to just know that trading these things takes experience, it takes time, and that's the process of why we want to be live with every single one of you, so you can see the real risks involved, right? We've had an amazing week, we had an amazing month closing up last month, but these events can go either way in either direction, right? So please pay attention to that. Again, if you fund with more than $250 and your balance more than $250, the link down below is my direct Telegram chat. You can just pop me a message showing me your MT4 number and your account balance, and we will jump in and I will send you that link to that session. Okay, so let's have a look at where the markets are at and why I believe certain things about where we could end up seeing NFP go. And I just want to draw your attention this morning, having a look at the US 30. I just want to show you where we are from a structural point of view, and why a potential buy breakout could be one of the best trades we are potentially looking at for this afternoon, right? I just want to point out the fact that there is quite a bit of market structure. My charts are quite choppy. I've been doing a lot of analysis and playing around, but there is going to be some really great changes that are coming, again, as I've said, with our new platform, right? We've got it back up online. We are busy testing some of the functionalities and features, placing some trades. My current trades that I'm currently running in my MT4 are obviously here as well. And we're just busy doing some testing. So this is coming to you very, very, very soon. The students and the clients of Globex 360 that are part of our beta group, we will be giving you early access to this. Again, that's if you are in our Dollars for Lunch sessions and all of our premium edition shows, we will be getting you access to this and a training session on the system and how everything works. It's absolutely amazing. So many functionalities and features, and trading something like NFP in the system is absolutely amazing. For today, because we're still doing bug testing, I don't necessarily want to be teaching everybody how to trade in here, and then also, creating, too many variables to obviously learn and be comfortable within this environment. But obviously, the bigger goal, as always, is we want to make good money today. That is where the goal is. That is where the process is. And that is why we have live TV. That's why we cover live events. That's why we're building new platforms and new structures and new systems, right? We very, very soon will be launching a brand new service, which is all the information that we look at on the market on a daily basis. And all of these features and functionalities will be available to you directly within your client's area, right? So that's going to be super, super important that we all take note of that. You can simply go into your client area, right? And on the left-hand side, on the left here, just behind my face here, you'll see that you will have your different live TV links, right? Just over here, right in your client's area. Once you log in, you'll have access to your live TV areas. The Academy will be here. We are launching a bunch of new tools and features that will include market reports, economic calendars, trades of the day, our favorite trades, opportunities that are coming up, as well as being able to chat directly with our team through WhatsApp. So just some major, major changes there that are coming in, and I think some really, really great opportunities will come of that for every single one of you. Now, looking at the US 30, back to where we were in for a second, the big thing I just want to point out here from the US 30 market structure perspective is that, we've taken multiple sells. I'm still holding my sell from actually Wednesday's event, right? So you guys remember we had that big buy move we caught, big sell move we caught, and markets pushed down the total from that sell position to well over 10,000 pips just on that session. And then, we've had a little bit of a retracement here. Now, I just want to point out the fact that we do have a very, very clear area of resistance that we can utilize in order to trade for NFP. So we've got a very, very clear resistance level. Again, if the dollar disappoints, that'll be everything that we need in order to look for massive, massive buy breakouts. The support area is a little bit more complicated, but we can also see the same thing that is materializing on NASDAQ. This is currently NASDAQ, and we don't have as clear of a resistance level, and that is why I generally want to use US 30 to look for that breakout point. NASDAQ has already, broken out as a little bit of a bear structure, started to retracement and retest. So we don't have a crystal clear resistance that I generally like to see, and we will more than likely end up utilizing US 30 to obviously try and identify that breakout zone. Now, there are quite a few different markets that are literally sitting at a point of breakout. Euro USD this morning is also currently sitting in a very, very vulnerable position. Again, should the dollar lose value, that's going to cause Euro USD to skyrocket, right? So if that that employment number comes in low and we see a higher than expected unemployment rate, we're going to see Euro USD start to rally. The euro is going to take over presence over the dollar. USD ZAR, exactly the same thing. As I mentioned yesterday, I obviously need USD ZAR to breach that 1551, 1552 level, and you can see we had that rejection. We are starting to see a little bit of a newer sideways market here, but again, a weaker dollar could take us into proper bear territory on USD ZAR, and we could start to see a little bit of a better retracement towards that downside. We have, almost a quadruple top here on this level. So prices across the board are set for some major pivots. The most clear version of that is currently sitting on XAUUSD. Gold this morning is currently sitting beautifully at the point of breakout. Now, again, please also bear in mind that before we get into these sessions, before we get into some of these big volatile sessions, markets will stall out. Knowing that there's data coming out, right, you won't see the type of volatility that you would expect for a London market. That's why I'm not too concerned about placing trades specifically on a day where the markets are waiting for that US data to come in. So a lot of these markets are going to stay almost dead still, right, until we get some sort of breakout there. Jamel saying that ECB President Lagarde is speaking at 11:30. Yeah, so we are going to have continued ECB presence, European Central Bank presence, with regards to interest rate decisions, with regards to economic outputs. Right, there's going to be quite a bit of volatility there, but that's not my concern for the day. Euro and the pound, I'm not too concerned about. The world is going to be pivoting around this dollar news and this dollar data, specifically because of Papa Powell's announcement on Wednesday. The whole world is going to see, is this data in line with what the Fed's expecting? And if we see that weaker dollar, you must remember, there's going to be a bigger effect here. This isn't a normal NFP where we just get a weaker dollar and it's great and it's happy and everyone's happy about it. A weaker dollar or a higher unemployment rate than expected or lower new job creation than expected will mean that Powell has more reason to start tapering off interest rates for December, right? So if we get that weaker dollar today, right, that could be a massive boost immediately, short-term day trading. But the reality is this could trend well into the next couple of weeks, right, based on what Powell could end up saying. At the moment, we saw with Powell's interest rate announcement, there was a great amount of hope. The expectation was that he would be dovish, he would be more open to reducing interest rates in December. But we could see in his speech that he was quite aggressive and quite serious about that. So there's a lot of hope in the market. We've reached that turning point. We've reached that pause in inflation. And if we get this bad jobs data, right, it's strange to think about it this way, but if we get bad jobs data, it has an immediate boost to indices topside, but it will set the tone and hopefully ease the market into a better feeling that, interest rate increases will start to taper off in the near future. And that could be enough. Remember, as we've said in all our sessions and more in our premium sessions, the markets don't care about today. The markets are looking and pricing in the next 30, 60, 90, 6 months, year from now. And so what we get today from a jobs data perspective does not matter as much about the state of the market today. It really sets the tone for what could end up coming. And I think that's what's going to drive the markets. And we'll obviously cover that in a lot more detail in our 1 o'clock session. I'll break down all those expectations and the percentages of probability that we could end up seeing there. So again, a lot of opportunities. Another good opportunity for a weaker dollar will definitely be on the price of Brent. If we see that weaker dollar, Brent will definitely have the legs to rally into that $98 per barrel, right? I get a lot of questions. Do I think it's going to get there? Do I think it's going to get there? Yes, I do. Does it mean I want to buy it to $98 a barrel? No, I would like to buy outside of that $98 per barrel level there, right? This will follow true for WTI. This will also follow true for crude oil as well. So those are going to be items that we obviously need to see there, and then as well as Bitcoin, right? So we talked about Bitcoin in potential breakout territory, but it needs that weaker dollar, right? The premise of crypto is that it is a solution to the current broken fiat currency system. A weaker dollar, we could start to really look seriously into start getting into some Bitcoin buys. Lucky saying, don't you think Fed Powell has set the tone for the rest of the year? A very, very good question. So Lucky's asking, don't I think that Powell's already set the tone for the year? So if we look at the Federal Reserve interest rate announcement, right, you guys will notice that as the interest rate came out, right, there was a 30-minute delay from the time the interest rate comes out to the time the question answers or Powell's speech begins, right? So we could see that markets did 100% believe that Powell could be dovish, right? Powell could come in, 75 basis points, but we're seeing data that aligns with, we could slow down interest rates. He didn't say that. He said that, there is a likelihood we could slow down, but for the time being, the data we're seeing today, we are still well on path to crush inflation, right? With the tools they have at hand. Their tools at hand are rising interest rates, tightening certain economic conditions, bond buybacks from the Federal Reserve to increase or reduce the amount of credit and supply within the markets. But there's a key word that he said there. Based on the data that we're currently seeing, right, he will still implement, all of the might the Federal Reserve has to curb inflation. Remember, we did not have the jobs report data, right? We're only getting that today. So if we see that jobs report data come out negative, in line with Powell's expectation or in line with their goals and hopes of all these economic policies, it means that the next interest rate announcement very well could be the announcement that we see a taper off on from 75 to potentially 50 basis points, right? Which will be what rocket fuels the markets, drives that dollar lower and drives stock markets, commodities, and prices higher across the board. So again, the tone has been set. Powell is dead set on his ways. If we see, now listen to this, if we see a good jobs report data, right, then yes, what Powell has said is set in stone, and we can be well assured that if we beat today's data, if we create more than 200,000 jobs, or we see unemployment rates not rise or stay dead neutral, even get better, right, then you can absolutely guarantee that Powell is going to definitely do another 75 basis points, even potentially 100 basis points, right? He got smashed by the previous NFP, and this would only add fuel to the fire. So if we see positive data, we're going to sell indices quite hard, right? We will sell gold, we will sell indices. Wherever the dollar is the base currency, we will buy. Wherever the dollar is the quote currency, we will sell, right? So we're going to see a stronger dollar if the jobs expectation, if we get more than 200, I'd say 220,000 jobs would be that 10% standard deviation. That would be a massive impact. And should we see that unemployment rate stick at that 4.5%, I believe, then it could be quite a good day for the dollar, but really, really bad day for everything else, right? So yeah, sorry, 3.5%. So we see it stick at 3.5% unemployment rate, or 3.4 for whatever reason. Extremely good for the dollar, bad for everything else in the markets, right? We are going to go into that in much more detail, but that's the general summary that you can use. We could, however, just understand this, we could get a situation. Please remember this, because this is how NFP creates whipsaws. And what you want to be aware of is you could receive one bit of data, unemployment rate positive, as an example, and then a couple minutes delay between the NFP non-farm payrolls, right? We could see non-farm payrolls come out, you see unemployment positive, so 3.5% or 3.4%, and then we get non-farm payrolls negative delayed by 2-3 minutes. That is what causes those massive moves and ranges in the market. So you don't want to be caught on that. We want to see the data come out. We want to see the market move in line with where we're going. And we want to have pending orders with trailing stops that activate at the right levels. Remember, just having a pending order is not enough. You want to have the correct trailing stop with the right stop loss levels and TP levels, so you can ride those trades and get out in profit. There's a lot of variables there. If you want to be part of that advanced setup session, like I said, that's 1 o'clock today. You need a minimum of $250 in your Globex 360 live account. We will go deep in the technicals and the setup there. Okay, Chris H saying, what time is NFP? NFP release is happening at 2:30. We are starting the public broadcast at 2 o'clock on the dot. The advanced premium plus session is going to be at 1 o'clock, prepping for that for $250 plus account holders. Then 2 o'clock we go live with a little bit of prep session for actual NFP itself. We will just recover some of the items, but we're not going to get too deep in the pending order setups. You can see my pending orders, whatever I set up at 1, you can see it. It might not be enough time for you to completely replicate that, but that's why it is a premium service for our $250 plus account holders. So that is what we expect from the day. I don't think, as I said, we're going to see much movement in the markets unless markets start to sniff and pick up that, where things could end up going. So we have seen in the past, right, looking at US 30, right, it's a little bit messy because of the massive move from the Federal Reserve. Every time I go anywhere close to US 30, my chart just absolutely goes nuts. But we could end up seeing, and I just want you to pay attention to this, is that if we start to see a little bit of a breakout, right, I will chase that breakout, personally speaking. So if I see a breakout to the top side, and let's say clearance of, I would say last night's 930, right, that quadruple top there, or basically just a bounce off resistance, I would start to go long on US 30, right, in lieu of the fact that we could get that negative dollar data, and that will be exactly what the US 30 indices, NASDAQ, even German 30 has an impact, as well as S&P 500 are waiting for. And the same thing can be said for gold. Same thing can be said for Brent. If we start to see breakouts prior to NFP, it means that we just need to pay attention to this. This means that the market knows something that we don't, right? And please don't think for a second that Wall Street is this super ethical, everybody gets the numbers at the same time. I can guarantee you that is not the case, right? There are numbers that get leaked prior to the time. Some of them are fake, some of them are real. But in the events that markets numbers are leaked and they are real, you'll start to see Wall Street take advantage of that. A few minutes can be hours ahead of time, right? Just somebody knowing a bit more than what they should. And please remember that is illegal, right? That is insider trading. So obviously we don't condone such, but it has happened in the past. We see markets moving with extreme volatility prior to the data coming out. The data comes out and confirms that's the direction. So then you kind of wonder to yourself, right? Who's who knew what prior to that? So everything is about NFP today. Our whole session, our whole focus is going to be on that. I'm going to be spending the next couple hours specifically just prepping, looking at all past data, looking at all swings, average ranges of swings, taking the strategy for today and back testing it against previous NFP sessions and seeing does that come out positive based on the numbers, based on the data. So 1 o'clock is going to be very, very powerful. If you want to be part of that, like I said for the last time, $250 or more, send me a screenshot of your MT4 number. And please, it has to be a Globex 360 live account. I see clients sending me screenshots of these ebook brokers that want to chow you, but you want to access, it doesn't make sense to me. You want to be with the best broker in the country, then be with the best broker in the country, right? If they were offering you what we offer, they should be doing live streams, academies, live sessions, conferences, technology, new trading platforms, deposit bonuses, cashbacks, and so much more. If they were the best broker, but they're not. We are. This is where you should be. So please don't send me a screenshot of another broker. I'll block you. Finished. End of story. Okay. Beautiful. Guys, have yourselves an amazing morning. NFP prep session advanced, 1 o'clock, public broadcast, 2 o'clock. Outside of that, listen, have yourselves an amazing morning. Trade safe, get yourself prepared, and I'll see you guys a little bit later. Until then, have an amazing day. Remember to live and trade the Globex 360 way. Goodbye.